Today, the thing that we're going to tackle is looping motion, and you're going to run into this a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. So you really have to kind of have a command of this so that it's something you can do almost in your sleep. So let's take a look at how this all works. I've got an example right here of what I mean by looping motion. I've got a radish that is falling, and you see how it falls from the top of the game screen to the bottom of the game screen, and it just keeps doing it over and over. It's never going to stop. There's nothing in this little program to make it stop, but we're not worried about that yet. We're worried about how do you create this kind of motion. All right, so I'm going to get started like you will. I'm going to start from scratch with a new Game Lab program, and this you're going to do 4 of these, and I emailed you a handout that tells you, but I want something that falls from the top to the bottom and then keeps doing that over and over. Something that goes from the bottom to the top, something that goes from the left to the right and then keeps doing it, and then something goes from the right to the left and then keeps doing it over and over. Now again, today the big time saver is going to be use, remix, and rename, and you can knock it out quick. Let's take a quick look. I'm going to go over to the animation tab. I'm going to add a new animation. I will just go to food. I'm going to go to the second page of this, and I will use that radish that I've got here. And I'm going to rename the radish down. It says radish 1. I'm just going to rename it down to radish. I'll go back over to code. I'm going to create the sprite. If I can drag it into the right spot. I'm going to create the sprite. I'm going to set the animation. I've done this before, so I also know that I'm going to set a scale for this. This is also going to involve setting a velocity, which we did in our last program, because that's what's going to make it move. Now this is going to be, I'm just going to call this veggie. And on the first one, I want it to fall down the screen. So its original position is going to be over 200 and down 0 is where I'm going to start it off. So this will be veggie right here. And I'm going to set the animation to be that radish that I picked out. I want to scale it because like I said, I've already tried this radish out, and I know I'm going to go like a 0.2 on that. I know that the radish is big, and so it's going to work better if it's smaller. And then for the velocity, this is going to be veggie, and I just want it to fall down. All right, it's a velocity y, so I'm going to set it at 5. The higher the number, the faster it goes. All right, so that's all set up outside the draw loop, outside the draw function. Now we go to work inside the draw function, and that's where the meat of the program is going to happen. First of all, let's set a background color in here, and I'm going to use light blue on mine, except I can't type or spell. And then I'm going to go ahead and say draw sprites, get that in there. But now here comes the new part of the day. This is where I've got to check to see, okay, it's already got a velocity. It's got a velocity y, so I know it's going to fall down. Did it hit the bottom? Did it get down to the bottom? That's what we have to check. Well, that's going to be done with an if block, so I'm just going to bring over an if. And what I'm going to be checking is a greater than situation, so I'm going to bring over a greater than, and I'll drop it in. And what I'm going to check is the y location of that radish, of the sprite. So it's going to be a sprite.y. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see if it actually went off of the bottom of the screen. I'll use 420 for my comparison number there. And this is going to have to be veggie.y on mine because that's my label. All right, now if that is true, there's at least one thing I want to make sure happens. And this is the key of the day. The Y position, it's been changing. It's been falling down the screen. It's gotten bigger than 420. So now I just want to reset it. I want to reset it back up to the top of the screen, the top of the game screen. Well, so that's going to be a sprite.y, and I'll just say veggie.y, and I'll just set it back to 0. That's the top of the screen. So that means if this thing falls down to the bottom, if it does, then it will just reset to the top, and it should do it over and over. Let's run it and find out. And I'm checking my work. You always have to check your work, and it's happening, right? And this is exactly what I want here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit reset. I didn't rename this one yet, but I'm going to do that real quick, and I'm just going to call this loop motion. Again, can't type. Loop motion number 1. And I could say top to bottom on there or whatever. You know, I could name it however I want to name it. Just don't be lazy and don't leave it untitled. All right, so this is going to be a remix, rename kind of thing. All right, so I'm going to remix. I'm going to rename. This is going to be my loop motion number 2. I'll save that. Now this time I want to do just the opposite. I want to start the object at the bottom, make it come up to the top, and once it gets to the top, I want that to loop over and over. All right, so I'm going to, first of all, I'll just use the same veggie here, but first of all, I'm going to make it go over 200 to begin with. Its original location is going to be over 200 and down 400. And all of the scaling and now the velocity this time, that velocity y is going to have to be a negative number because I want it to come up the screen. So I'm going to have to set the velocity to a -5. And then the if condition that I'm checking here, this is no longer going to be a greater than thing. And I could do show text and I could edit this. I think for right now I'll just pull that block out and I'll just make a new one. This is going to be a less than situation now. I want to check that y value, sprite.y, and did it become less than 0? And it's going to be veggie.y, and did it become less than 0? Because that's, it's coming up, and so if it becomes less than 0, I want it to reset itself back down to the bottom. Well, so I've got that in here. I've got if it's less than 0, veggie.y equals, but now this number, I want this to be like 400. I could go 400, that's the bottom of the screen, or I could go like 420, which would be a little bit off the bottom of the screen. That's kind of up to you. All right, if I run this, I can just check to see if it's working. It's rising up the screen. When it goes off the top, it reappears on the bottom, and that is exactly what I was shooting for here. So this one's done. Yay. All right, so we're going to move ahead to number 3. I'm going to remix. I am going to rename, and this is going to be loop motion number 3 here. And this time I'm going to do a left to right kind of thing. And all I'm going to have to do is adjust a few things. This time my radish, I want it to start over 0 and down 200. That's going to be, down 200. That's going to be its original location. Now the velocity this time, and again I could do show text over here and just edit this. I'll just pull the block out for right now. The velocity this time is not going to be a velocity y, it's going to be a velocity x because this is horizontal movement. So it's going to be veggie velocity x, and it's not going to be a negative number. I had a negative number in there on that remix, so this one is going to be a positive number. I'm moving from left to right, so I'll just put a 5 in there. Now when I get down here to my if condition, I'm no longer checking a y thing here. I'm not going to check veggie.y, so I'm just going to pull this out. And what I'm going to be checking is it's going to be a greater than kind of thing because the radish is going to be moving from left to right. So I'm going to go to math and I'm going to get a greater than block. And I'm going to check the sprite.x. It'll be veggie.x. I'm going to drop that in. Veggie.x, and the thing I'm going to check is, did it get over there past 400? Did it go over past the right hand side of the screen? And actually, again, I'm going to put in the number like 420, so it really has to go past the edge of the screen. Now the thing I want to have happen, again, I could do this with show text. I'm just going to drag this block out. The thing I want to have happen is I want to reset the x value, so I'll just say sprite.x. And then I'm going to set it back to 0, which is back over on the left hand side. Same thing as what we've been seeing on all the others. I'll run this. The radish should slide across from left to right. When it goes off the right, it should reappear on the left, and it is working. Yay. All right, so number 3 is working. So I'm going to just reset that, and I'm going to remix, and I'm going to rename. And we're going to do number 4, and number 4 is going to be the opposite of what I just did. I'll save that. This time it's going to move from right to left, and when it gets off of the left side, it's going to reappear back over on the right hand side. All right, so the first thing is its original position. This one's going to have to be over 400 and down 200. That's where I want it to start. And then the velocity of this one, this is a velocity x, but it's going to have to be negative. So I'll say -5. It's moving from right to left. This time when I go to check the X value, and this time I will use show text. I'll just go in here and say show text, and I'm just going to say, all right, if that X location gets less than 0, just going to edit that. If veggie.x gets less than 0, and I'll stay in my show text mode here, because what I'm going to do is, if that is true, if the X location of the veggie gets less than 0, I'm going to reset it back over to like 400. I'm going to use like 420 again, which is actually past the edge of the screen a little bit. The edge of the screen is at 400. I could go back to show blocks now. So you wouldn't have to use show text. You could pull blocks out and replace them. But if you like show text, if you feel like that's quicker and easier, then do that. All right, I'm going to run that. Our radish is moving from right to left. And when it gets off of the left-hand side, it comes back on to the right-hand side. This looping motion behavior is something that we're going to run into a ton as we go forward in other lessons that we're going to do. And when you get into your own little game design, you're going to want to make things loop over and over, kind of a continual motion like what we've done here. So you've seen these 4 programs from top to bottom, bottom to top, left to right, right to left, and they have to loop continually like I've got them doing right here. All right, that's it. Off you go.